Hi, I'm Tim Clark with Gasville, USA. Today we're going to take an in-depth look at this beautiful 1965 Pontiac GTO. It's a rather special car with a tri-power, a Muncie 4-speed manual transmission. The brakes have been upgraded to 4-wheel disc, and it still has cold factory air conditioning. This beautifully restored GTO comes with PHS documents, a folder of restoration parts receipts, and also a very interesting packet of Ace Wilson Royal Pontiac documents. During this video, we'll focus on all of the following. We'll start with a walk-around showing the body and paint condition, external lighting, door alignments, door locks, and window regulators. Then we'll move to the engine compartment, start the engine, and operate the air conditioner. Moving back, we'll inspect the interior and check out the dash and instrument panel. The trunk is next with views of the inner quarter panels, the trunk pan, spare tire, and jack. Up next will be the under chassis with views of the frame, body mounts, floor, suspension, driveline, etc. Then comes the test drive. We'll take a longer drive through country highways, busy city streets, and a run down the interstate. We'll finish up with a look at the Ace Wilson Royal Pontiac documents and a quick look at the folder of restoration parts receipts. There's a lot to go through, so let's get started. Now, I just want to take a moment and cut into the video and go a little bit further in depth on the body, sheet metal, and paint condition. Regarding rust, I have not seen any signs of rust issues. I have not seen any signs of bubbles, no hairline cracks in Bondo. I've been underneath the car, been all over the car, and I just don't see any signs of rust anywhere. The paint has a mirror-like finish. You can see in these photos it reflects images beautifully. Now, at this point, I want to tell you that this is a beautiful driver car and not a trailer queen show car. If you look at this picture on the top of the hood, it has a very tiny scratch. I put my finger in the picture so you could see the size of the scratch. To me, it appears as though maybe a stone flew up and scratched the hood. Also, on the trunk lid, there's a tiny chip or two, and something may have been set on it and chipped the paint, and I'm not really sure if there's a dimple there or not, but I just want you to be aware of it. Now, throughout the car, there could very well be other tiny chips in the paint in various locations. Again, this is a very, very beautiful driver condition classic car, but it is not a trailer queen show car. The car was built to be driven and enjoyed. Let's go ahead and check the door alignments, the door locks, and window regulators on the 65 GTO. Nice thing about post cars, they just snap shut so nice. Listen to this. Perfect. Door locks. I love the fact that even the wing windows work great. Rear windows also work beautifully. We'll do the same thing on the passenger side. Door just snaps shut beautifully. No rattles. Nice and tight. Door locks. I'll lock it with a key. Locked. And unlocked. Again, the wing window works great. And the rear window. Well, at this time, I'm going to go ahead and do a cold start on the 65 GTO. Now, I haven't started this probably in 2 or 3 days. When I turn the key on, you'll notice that my brake light comes on for the emergency brake. The emergency brake works great, and that's really important with a standard transmission, especially when you step out of the car like I'm going to do. So at this time, I'll put the clutch in, I'll set the choke with my foot, and crank the engine. Go ahead and turn the air conditioner on. Well, let's take a look at the dash and instrument panel. Start on the left. I'll turn the key on. First thing you might notice is right over here on the far left, the battery light illuminates just fine. And right above it is the gas gauge, and it works good as well. Moving to the right, you'll notice the speedometer. And at the time of this recording, the odometer is 21,367. Right below it, you'll notice the brake light illuminating. That's for the emergency brake. I'll release it, and the light goes off. And I'll put it back on. To the right of that is the tachometer. I'll show that in a minute, as well as the water temperature gauge and the oil pressure gauge. So to demonstrate these, I'll go ahead and start the engine. Hopefully you can see that the tachometer works nice. The engine is very cold, so the water temperature gauge is showing cold. And right below it, the oil pressure gauge, right over here, showing probably about almost 60 pounds of PSI, maybe like 55. Also down on the center console, you'll see the vacuum gauge working great. And let's go ahead and demonstrate the air conditioner while the engine's running. And the fan. The fan blows nice. And the air conditioner blows cold air. I guess I'll go ahead and turn the engine off. Now I've already demonstrated the headlights on another video. And continuing on, I'll turn the key on and operate the windshield wipers. There's low and high. Back to low and park. The horn works great, no problem. I've already demonstrated the turn signals on the exterior, but the indicator light is right up here. So you can see the indicator light works correctly for both directions. The cigarette lighter, the socket works. The socket works fine. I've used it for a GPS, and actually I used it for powering my cameras for the test drive video. But the element itself does not get hot. So the socket works great for your phone or GPS or whatever, but the element does not get hot. And the AM radio surprisingly turns on, and you can hear the static, but I'm not able to tune in a station. I'm in a steel building, and actually I don't even know if the antenna's plugged in, but you can hear what it sounds like. The dash itself, the dash pad is beautiful. Headliner is beautiful. The sun visors are great. Beautiful steering wheel. I think, when I've already demonstrated the vacuum gauge with the other gauges, so I believe that concludes the dash and instrument panel video. Starting at the back, we'll check out the body bushings right up in here. There's of course a number of them, and they all seem to be newer and replaced. The rubber looks real nice and soft in them. Another one right over here. Very nice. And it's a little hard to see, but on both sides, right over here and over here as well. Those are going to be a little harder for you to see. Metal looks really, really nice. The frame is very nice as well. Looks like it's all been cleaned and repainted. I don't know this for a fact because I don't have first-hand knowledge or documents, but to me it certainly looks as though this was a frame-off restoration. I mean, it just kind of makes sense. But I cannot claim that because I did not do it myself, and I don't have any documents to back it up. But that's the way it looks to me. Gas tank looks to be newer. I mentioned this before, but the car has four-wheel disc brakes, which really is nice. I like that. Trailing arms look very nice with a heavy-duty sway bar. Again, the coil springs look to be new or newer. Right up in here. Very large exhaust. I assume this is at least 3-inch exhaust. Funny, it's not overly loud. Here are the lines for the fuel, and I'm going to assume the fuel return and the rear brakes. Yeah, you can see them right here. The fuel line and the fuel return line. Frame looks beautiful, very nice. Now, I'm judging this as a driver, not a trailer queen show car. So in other words, here's an example. Hey, there's dust on here. I mean, it just hasn't been driven much. So there's dust on the metal. I cleaned a few cobwebs off earlier. So when I say it looks beautiful, I'm referring to as a very nice driver. Yeah, here's a cobweb right here. See that? It had been sitting for a while before I got it. The floors are very nice. Very nice. Very nice and solid. Really nice floors in it. Again, I don't know this, but either they're in fabulous condition originals, or more likely they were replaced. You can see the transmission mount cross member. It looks brand new. And the new rubber insulator right in here. The transmission is a Muncie 4-speed. You can tell that from the bolt pattern. 7 bolts right in here and reverse in the tail shaft. I was told it's an M20, but I guess it could be an M21. I know it's not an M22 because it doesn't have the whine that an M22 has. So I'm assuming that the guy knew what he was talking about and saying it was an M20. The headers has a little bit of a residue from what looks like at one time was a little oil leak. Probably came from a loose filter because It looks like it's generated right in this area and probably came down. Nice and dry right now. No issues. It looks like at one time maybe this oil filter was leaking, or not this oil filter, but a different oil filter maybe had a little bit of a seep at one time. Anyway, for me that's a non-issue right now. Here's a shot of the front disc brakes right in here. If you notice all this grass on the tires, this building is different than where I keep my cars, and we've had a lot of rain, and I had to drive across the grass to get it to this building, so there's some grass on the tire tread. I really like mini starters. I'm a real fan of them, and this one has a Summit mini starter as well. Shot of the disc brakes over on the other side. More grass on the tire tread. The steering gearbox looks to have been replaced. I know the steering is very nice and tight and responsive. And here's the rag joint, and that looks new. Here's an aluminum radiator. The cooling on this car is fabulous. The front steering components look to where they have been replaced. Just really, really nice. Love this floor. Oh, I don't know if I really mentioned, this drive shaft also looks new. There's some chalk writing on it, or maybe crayon writing right in here. Here's the little Positrack tag on the rear end. Just a really, really nice under chassis for a beautiful driver car. Thank you.
Beautiful.
Appreciate it. Boy, now what a fun ride. I just had a great drive. It was a longer drive. Today I've probably driven the car maybe around 50 miles, possibly 60. I didn't really keep track, but I'm gonna roll this window up so there's less noise. But what a fun ride. The car handled great. The steering was nice and tight and responsive. And I love the brakes. Like I mentioned before, it's four-wheel disc brakes, and you just barely touch the brake pedal, and it's a nice, easy, controlled stop. You know, it doesn't jerk or anything, but you don't hardly have to use much of the pedal. Just a nice, controlled stop. Brakes are excellent. Steering, like I mentioned, I did not notice any excessive play. Very nice and responsive. Actually, most of the time I was probably just driving with two fingers, or maybe my thumb and two fingers. Very nice handling. The suspension is very nice, went over some bumps, and yeah, just nice control on the suspension as well. I started out at a gas station and I filled up with gas, and yes, the gas gauge works. It went over to full, and that's great. Speedometer works, tachometer works, and I noticed when I was out in the country cruising about 65 miles an hour, the RPM on the tach showed about 2,800. So I'm guessing that the rear end gear ratio might be mid threes or so. The engine coolant temperature stayed nice and low. The oil pressure varied between maybe 60 pounds, you know, while I was driving out on the highway, and when I pull up to a stoplight, it might drop down to about 50. So that was very good as well. Let's see, what else am I missing? I think that might be it. When I was out in the country and going through the gears, I wasn't racing the car, but I accelerated hard enough to open up the sequential carburetors front and rear, and yeah, it set me back in the seat. That was a lot of fun. I might be missing something. Let's see, the transmission shifts beautifully. The synchros are very nice. The shifter is also very tight and very nice. No complaints at all. Altogether, not just today, but on other trips, I might have driven the car maybe 100 miles, and I'll tell you, the car just a lot of fun to drive. I've never had an issue, and just what a fun ride with a tri-power 4-speed car. Hey, I appreciate you taking time to watch this video, and you can always check out my website for more videos at gasvillusa.com. And again, always feel free to call or text me at 479-636-5600. 7111. When I purchased this 1965 GTO, I was really excited to find a packet of Ace Wilson Royal Pontiac documents in the center console of, again, this exact car. Now, for those that may not be familiar with that dealership name, think Chevrolet. The names like Yanko or Baldwin Motion or Nicky or other performance dealerships may come to mind. But before them, Pontiac was already doing this in Michigan. I believe it was Royal Oak, Michigan, under the dealership name of Ace Wilson. Now, besides offering performance cars off the lot, from what I understand, Ace Wilson was also selling aftermarket performance parts to owners of Pontiac cars. So in other words, if you already owned a GTO, or a 2+2 or whatever, you could order his parts, install his parts, and that would turn it into an Ace Wilson Bobcat. Now, I'm providing a link to where you can do your own research on this and come to your own conclusion. But that's the way it certainly appears to me. Now, this car, again, like I said, came with several documents, including the envelopes that were dated, etc., and very, very interesting. Two of my favorite documents is the parts list, and in the top right-hand corner of the parts list, you'll notice a kit, including tri-power, etc. This car has a tri-power, and also in this kit is 2 adhesive stickers for the windows with the Bobcat. Now, I've looked at these stickers, which have never been applied. Again, they're included in the kit. And these, to me, look original because there are aftermarket stickers, and the color contrast on the aftermarkets, to me, look a little bit different. To me, these look original. And also, on the back of the stickers, there's a code which could very well be, but I'm not sure, but could very well be the production date. Anyway, I think, but I cannot prove, that these stickers are original Bobcat stickers. So there's a chance that this car could have Ace Wilson Bobcat parts installed on it. And there's a chance it may not. I cannot verify one way or the other. I actually researched and tracked down the original owner of these documents. He and I spoke on the phone several times. Now, he remembers buying a new GTO, and he also remembers these documents. But when I describe this GTO to him, he does not think that this was his GTO. So it's a real mystery on how his documents from Ace Wilson Royal Pontiac could have ended up in a different 1965 tri-power GTO. I don't have an answer, and neither does he. So it's quite a mystery, and it's a nice story to be able to share with others. But using those documents, I scanned those and I printed them, and I made this little album book right here, and it tells a little bit of the story of the Ace Wilson Royal Pontiac dealership, and it includes scans of the documents that I have. That way, if you were to go out to a car show, you can put this on display with a car, and that way you can also keep your original documents safe at home. It's an interesting story. Again, I cannot verify one way or the other if this is a real Ace Wilson Royal Pontiac GTO Bobcat or not. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't know one way or the other. But it certainly is a very interesting story to share. There's a lot of documentation that goes with a car. Now, I made a separate video for the Ace Wilson Royal Pontiac documents, so that's a video by itself. Now, also included is a packet from PHS. Now, PHS is Pontiac Historic Service. They verify or certify or document, whatever word you might want to use, how a car was equipped when it left the factory. Now, in this document, you'll notice that this did have or does have the GTO package. Also, on the cowl trim tag, you'll notice the code 5N. That decodes as accessory line number 5. N is for the GTO package. So between the two of those, the PHS documentation and also the cowl trim tag, I feel 100% confident that this is a real 1965 GTO. And from what I understand, it makes it a little bit more desirable or rare is because that it's actually on a post car and not a hardtop. But moving on. Also, speaking of codes, you might notice that the state of Arizona reissued the VIN tag for the car. Now, I don't know why Arizona did that. Possibly, and I say possibly, the original VIN tag may have been damaged during the restoration. That's just speculation, and I don't know why. But various copies of previous owners' titles go with the car. Now, it looks like the car was in Arizona for a period of time, also in California, and maybe back into Arizona again. And then I purchased the car from southern Missouri. The current title on the car is for Missouri. And of course, being a dealer, I just signed the back of it. Okay, moving on. Also, there's a lot of restoration parts and services receipts that go with the car. And here's just a few pictures of those. All of these documents and all of these pictures will be included with the car purchase.